Look, if you're not asking the hotel to drop a handwritten note in the client's room, it's such a missed opportunity. Almost every hotel everywhere around the world will take the time and literally handwrite a note, and they'll sign your name. And then you can ask them to drop an amenity in the room as well. And a lot of times they'll do that, and they'll do it completely complimentary. So you don't have to worry about, did my client arrive? Do they have good feelings? Are they excited about their trip? They arrive in that first hotel room. They have this beautiful handwritten note from you, and they're like, man, she's the best.
Have you ever had a client in destination call you because they're wondering where their voucher for their trip is? Yeah, well, let's not have that happen, right? So first thing that you want to do is make sure all your documents are aligned. With the pre-departure team at Sava Travel, we make sure all your travel documents and final documents are aligned and your customer has access to each and every voucher. That way, when they're in destination, they're not calling you looking for their meeting point, and you don't have to be bothered. So let's make sure all of that is taken care of to make your life easier in the end. Welcome to the Travel Agent Guide, the podcast pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to be a travel agent. We're talking real life, the challenges, the wins, the money, the mistakes, and the growth. Whether you've been in the travel industry for years or are new to it, we're in this together, and you're exactly where you need to be.
Welcome. This week, we are talking about pre-departure, and we are talking about the checks that you absolutely cannot skip. However, by the end of this podcast, you're not only going to have that, but you're going to have a very comprehensive list of every single thing that you should be checking on your trip. So if you want to take notes, you could go ahead and do that. Hand them off to your pre-departure assistant, which if you don't have, you should, and let them do the dirty work to make sure all your trips are in line. So Haley, tell us a little bit about when you first started using a pre-departure team, and or what did your trips look like before you started checking them? Did you just like fly by the seat of your pants and hope for the best?
Everybody listening to this, if you don't have a pre-departure set in motion, odds are you're not doing it, or at least you're not doing it the way that you should be or the best to your ability. Yeah, I was like $200,000 in sales a year, and I couldn't even keep up with the pre-departure requests. And the pre-departure requests are basically there to make you look like an amazing travel agent, right? At the end of the day, you should be doing them on every single trip to avoid any additional hiccups and make sure everything's perfect for your clients. So I did implement it probably about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 at this point. Best thing I ever did, right? I think it was a game changer for my business as a whole. I was able to give up so much time and get back to focusing on what I really love, and that's designing amazing trips for my clients.
Okay, so Haley, I did it the worst possible way. I just didn't do that work because I was too focused on sales, and instead I went, well, hope it goes well. And when I booked, I would recheck everything after I was done booking. But after that, I didn't check it again. I just hoped for the best. And I kind of took it in my head as, look, all the time I'm saving doing those checks, whatever it cost me to make up for the mistake I made is probably less than the money I made focusing on sales. That's not the way to make sales, because what's going to happen is you're going to lose those repeat clients or those potential referrals that came out. So no, you shouldn't be doing the checks because you're really great at sales and you should focus on sales, but somebody should be doing the checks. So I ran my business that way for years, of me just literally crossing my fingers and hoping for the best at the end of the day. And there was a mistake or two made. I know that's shocking. Okay, so today we're going to dive into like the standard pre-departure checks and all the different things that you should have in each of the components. But we're also going to talk about kind of the big, hey, you really can't miss this. So we'll start at the itinerary kind of top to bottom and work our way down, and then talk about how we've tweaked it to make sure other things are covered as well. So let's start with flights. Haley, tell us a little bit about like, how do you handle flights? Do you tell the client just, look, it's in the airline's app and that's your source of truth, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, when I book flights for clients, first of all, I think having a pre-departure call is super important. This is where you kind of go over everything with your client. I tell a client after we book, listen, it's up to you to download the Delta app, put your notifications on, keep track of everything, because in 8 months there will be a flight change or two. You might get kicked out of your seats. I cannot be responsible for hopping in to make sure your seats are aligned every time there's a change. So I need you to kind of take some ownership here. And if not, if you don't set those expectations and you get on that pre-departure call, it's not going to be a fun conversation that two honeymooners got separated. Now they got to deal with it at the gate agent or with the gate agent. So the way I approach flights is that, right? I let clients know things will change, but the pre-departure team basically comes in, 14, probably like 30 days out to 14 days, evaluates flights, make sure everything stays aligned, meaning your transfers, right? So, if there's a significant flight change, you're going to have to contact the transfer company, update them, just to make sure everything stays aligned. So, yeah, pre-departure team takes care of a lot of that for me, so I don't really have to worry about it. It's the best.
So Haley is talking about our pre-departure team that we've built out at Sava Travel. So anybody that is associated with our host agency can use this team. The reality of the matter is, however, even if you're not part of Sava Travel or interested in switching hosts, you're still going to get a lot of value out of this checklist that we're going to go through today. And you can implement it with your own team or yourself or whatever that looks like for you. But also, back up, everybody. Did we hear Haley set like a really beautiful boundary there? Like, I'm not responsible if the airline changes planes and now your seats have changed, right? I've gotten blamed for that more times than I can say. And I'm like, do you think I own Delta?
Oh, people do think you do. And I've gotten into it with clients in some very ugly conversations. But I've learned at this point now, I just set realistic expectations. I think a lot of advisors shy away from booking flights. I still think book the flight. Just be transparent with your client about, after you book, there's only so much you can do. If there's a really bad, change, I'll do everything that I can to help you. But sometimes your hands are tied. I had clients get kicked out of their comfort seats because they downgraded a flight. And the only comfort seats available were ADA accessible, right? And my client didn't care. They did not care that it was ADA accessible and they felt like they deserved those seats, right? So that was a tough conversation. But I think just setting those expectations that this really happens with flights often, more often than not, then there's if as long as you say it, they should understand for the most part. But I'm not
Absolutely.
done.
Absolutely. Okay. So pre departure call to review everything, highly important. But what the pre departure team does for flights is a handful of things. They should be logging into the airline's website and then checking whatever itinerary builder you use, whether that's Axis or Turn or Travify or any of these others. They should make sure that everything is matching. The checklist is simple. So you cross check the flights with the airline's website. You have to have your record locator in there. You have to make sure the departure, arrival times, all of that, connections, everything kind of aligns with what you're doing. We do not put seats in our turn itineraries. And that's simply because, like Haley mentioned, the flights change a lot. It could be a problem. So we tell our clients, look, United app, that's going to be your source of truth always and forever. And then if for some reason a flight has changed, making sure that you're getting in touch with the transfer company and making sure all of that's aligned. So that is our flight checklist. One big thing that I will tell you that Haley and I both do is we explain to clients on that pre-departure call, I'm not answering the phone at 2 a.m. Like, I'm not. I'm sorry. It's not happening. I got two little kids. I barely get a full night's sleep as it is. You are not interrupting that. So I explain to clients, look, I am giving you everything that you are going to need in order to self-rescue if something happens here. So you need to be independent. And that's what this pre-departure call is for. It's for me to make sure that you have all the things and that you feel comfortable moving forward. So if a flight is canceled or delayed or whatever happens, you're going to work directly with the gate agent to help that situation. Now, does the client still call me 9 times out of 10? Absolutely. But usually it's because they've already fixed the problem or they're halfway there. Or they just want me to loop me in or whatever.
Yeah,
So
they want the reassurance that they're making the right decision on what the change is, right? And that's normal, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so transfers, the checklist is pretty simple. We make sure the transfer has the flight information, but we also make sure the transfer has the client's phone number. I don't know how you guys do it, but the way Haley and I book is we put our own information in for everything because we have found you can't trust most vendors to not try to steal your clients. So typically we are putting our email address and our contact information. However, in this case, you want to make sure that that transfer has the client's cell phone number because again, it's usually 2 a.m. for you when they land the next day in their destination. So transfers, flights, that's kind of how everything plays. Anything I missed there?
No, but to circle back to the flights and the pre-checks there, always cross-check names and dates of birth. I think a lot of times this doesn't happen. And also linking like TSA pre-check and or KTN numbers. I think that's important as well. Clients expect it. So pre-departure will actually cross-check to make sure names match passports and all of that as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good call. And I will say with TSA and Global PreCheck, like nothing makes a client more mad than they go to log in and it's not there. So we even do like the rewards numbers and all of that. And that's something our guest experience team does. They reach out and they say, hey, do you have Global Entry or TSA? Do you have any airline rewards numbers you want us to put in there? And then they're the ones that drop everything into the airline system themselves. So something else to think about to shove off to your assistant to do for you.
Right.
Okay, now we're at the hotel state. We've got the flight, we've got the transfer, we're at the hotel. Haley, tell us a little bit about a hotel check.
Yeah, so every travel advisor should be sending a an email to the hotel or the property where your client is staying. Do not call them. I mean, you can call them, but calling them, you have no documentation. I want that
Yes.
hard written email that says this was reconfirmed. So if my client does show up and there's a problem, I have that to fall back on and I can go tell my client, listen, I did check and I was told everything was all set. So here's the email to verify that. I'm very big about everything written. So keep that in mind. So if you are not doing this yet, I highly suggest you start doing it. Not only are you just reassuring that everything was a clean process between supplier to hotel and everything was paid properly, but you're also setting your clients up for just a better experience when they arrive on site, right? If you take the time and send the email and tell them, hey, they're arriving 5 hours before check-in. Is it possible to get them an early check-in? We all know that's based on arrival, right? But they're going to have it notated in there. And when your client shows up, they'll be like, yeah, it was notated here for an early check-in. And it just makes you look like a professional, like you went above and beyond for them. Um, so that's one of the first checks that you definitely want to do. Aside from that, you want to ask for a handwritten note left in the room. With a handwritten note, you are going, pretty straightforward. This is, so and so. Thank you so much for traveling. Enjoy your beautiful vacation from your trusted travel advisor, Haley, and so on. Ask for a complimentary amenity 9 out of 10 times if you're booking a 4-star property or above. 3-star, it may be a struggle, right? I'm going to be honest, but with a 4-star plus, they're going to leave that handwritten note. They're going to leave a complimentary amenity. Your clients are going to walk in and see it after they've just traveled 15, 16 hours to get to Greece. And they're going to be like, thank you so much. It just shows that much appreciation for them. I think too, it's important to ask the hotel about certain construction or what events are going on so you can prepare your clients properly. I've had clients come back and tell me that, yeah, there's loud noise. I didn't realize they were doing construction. And okay, maybe I never thought to ask that, right? And then now you realize, okay, maybe I should, right? So we have a whole template that goes out to every hotel for each booking that I have. The pre-departure team does for my hotels. And we do it at a 30-day mark. So that gives the hotel enough time and they'll follow up. So if they do 3 attempts and don't hear from you, they're going to let you know, like, hey, Haley, just FYI, I never heard back from XYZ property. Do you want to try to call them? And then that's kind of back on you to figure it out. But that's very rare that it happens. And I see that more in like big Caribbean resorts and like smaller hotels in Europe or Asia or whatever.
Yes, Sandals is not going to email you back. It's so annoying. There
Exactly.
are certain ones that are a little bit more difficult, but yes, most five-star hotels, you get that email back immediately. So Haley mentioned basically at Sava, our pre-departure team does this, and it sounded like a lot there, but I want you guys to hear that it's just one templated email and you put in the pieces that you need. So at the top it says, can you reconfirm the stay of the hotel? So we will have the exact room type there, the number of travelers, the ages if it's relevant, check-in, check-out date, and that's the part we're really actually worried about because if you're booking through Vax, Beds Online, Expedia, any of these third party wholesalers, the reality of the matter is they're turning around and rebooking with the hotel directly or even sometimes with another wholesaler. Beds Online books through Expedia all the time, right? So our reality is that sometimes that ball gets dropped. And with the over 1,000 trips that we did last year, the reality is multiple times we got a hotel from Rate Hawk or Beds Online or one of these that wasn't exactly right when we started communicating with the hotel. So what we did was we were able to pivot, communicate with the hotel and say, this is what we need. So a little templated section at the top with the actual details, questions about, and we bullet point them. We basically say, like, hey, can you also let us know, is the hotel under construction? Are there any major events happening in the city that we need to know about? Anything else that we should tell our client to set expectations? Then below that, we say, and one more thing. Would you mind sending an email on behalf of our advisor? And our assistants clearly explain, I'm the assistant. You need to sign this from the travel agent. But the reality is, all of that's in one long email. So basically, information about the stay. Hey, give me information about the hotel I might need to know. Oh, I missed the part about checking in early. We say, here's the flight information. This is when they check in. And then we say, would you please leave a handwritten note? And it is amazing the types of gifts that a hotel will leave your client because they feel awkward about just leaving a handwritten note alone. So they go in with the bottle of wine, the chocolate covered strawberries, the whatever it is, and you look incredible at the end of the day. So this is just one hotel or one email that's sent, but there's a lot of ask in that email. Haley, did I miss anything for what we checkbox that email?
No, I think, yeah, you hit it. That's it.
I love it. And I also do, I mean, some do, some don't, but I will upload the voucher for the hotel to the itinerary. So if for some reason when they're checking in there is a problem, they can pull the voucher and say, no, 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 here this is. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. But I'd rather them have it and know they have it to lean on, especially if it is the middle of the night and I'm not going to be there when they're checking in. All right, so now we've got hotels. Next but not least on the itinerary is going to be the tours. And that's the part where the vouchers I think are absolutely imperative because things are more likely to get messed up with the tours than they are with anything else. So I will also, our pre-departure team also messages each tour operator and says, hey, this is a client's phone number. This is a client's information. Can you reconfirm the meeting place? These sort of things. And even if you're not doing that, the very, very, very least you need to be doing is just making sure whatever you booked in Viator matches whatever you have in Travefy or Turn or Axis or whatever you're using. Just double checking that it all matches. You would be shocked how many times you're like, oh, did I drag and drop that to the wrong day? I did. Oh no, let me fix it. Or is that 7:15, but it needs to be 8:15? Let me fix it. So double checking those bookings, especially because there tends to be a bunch of those tour bookings, makes all the difference in the world. What else did we miss with tours? Anything there? That one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just make sure
Okay.
documents are visible to clients so they can see them. Exactly.
So I think the last big piece of it is just any kind of train tickets, ferry tickets, whatever that looks like, making sure the client understands before they leave what the steps are that need to happen. Do they need to verify that ticket before getting on the train? Do they need to have the ticket printed out? Sometimes they need printed stuff, right? Whatever it is, just making sure that you're really taking the time to understand what's needed and making sure your client understands where they need to go to get that information. Okay, I click this button in the app. This is what pulls up all the documents. Now I know exactly what I need from there. The document section to me, taking the extra 2 minutes and dragging and dropping everything so it's in the right order also feels like an extra special luxury to the client. And it's just
Right.
easier for them to find stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I do have a couple more things that I would want to add, especially if there's any client with like mobility or disability issues. I think just giving everyone a heads up on that situation is always really helpful. Or another thing that you can put in our very long email to the hotels is that, or hey, they need distilled water for a CPAP machine, or we need to make sure there's a sharps container in the room, or we need to make sure there's a fridge in the room for refrigerated medication. whatever that is, I think
Yeah, or like
you'll forget.
elevators and first floor. There's just so many times you have to contact the property to double check for clients.
Just don't let that slip because a client that does have those mobility issues or
Mhm.
disabilities of sorts, man, they'll love you 1,000 times more if you make their life even a fraction easier than it already is. Than it already is. That is not how that should have come out. Their life is very hard. Make their life a fraction of a bit easier. But I think the reality of those like special requests can't be dropped. It's got to be paid attention to and checked time and time again so they don't check in with the wrong expectations. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So other than that, our pre-departure that I want to make sure everybody's kind of on top of is understanding that the client's expectation match yours. So what I like to do on that farewell call is going through the itinerary from top to bottom. And as I'm going through the itinerary, I say, and here's where you get the phone number for that tour operator. And here's where the meeting place is. And then we go to the next one. And honestly, what that is me double checking it. So I don't take time to double check it before. I double check it as we're going through it live on the farewell call. And I just write down if they're missing anything. And I go, oh, there's a phone number that's missing. I'll get that in before the end of the day. Don't worry about it. Right. And then I message my pre departure team and say, hey, what happened here? Fix this for us.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important. And just making sure the reality of like every little piece is put together, but I don't do it ahead of time. Do you, Haley? How do you handle that farewell call
No,
and
the
prepping for
second
it?
I book a trip and I give it, and Jem takes over and then pre-departure goes in, the next time I'm looking at the actual itinerary is on the pre-departure call. So at
Yes.
this point, I've entrusted, pre-departure and Jem to go and manage everything else in between. I did a pre-departure call the other day. I noticed that a tour actually pushed back an hour, right? So we got the email on that, but it coincided with the dinner reservation. So I'm like, okay, now we have to fix this, push back the dinner reservation another hour. But again, I just put it back on pre-departure. They went ahead and fixed it, or the gem went in and changed the dinner restaurant. They talk to each other so they can communicate to make sure everything's done, check it off the list, send me the, hey, all's good to go. I text my client and say, all those updates that we talked about in the call are good to go. Any questions, let me know.
Yeah, I just keep a list of notes while we're on the call.
Yeah.
And then afterward, I shoot that whole list over to the team to deal with.
Yeah, and
I
at the
just
end of the
doing it.
pre-departure call, I say, have an amazing trip. Just to recap our conversation, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'll get back to you before we do that. And anything else, let me know. So I'll text the client right after this now, just a reminder that all my things have been taken care of for them.
Okay, one more big thing on that dinner reservations or something that doesn't have like a paid for booking. We still have our guest experience team download that email, the like confirmation email that you get from Open Table or whatever. Let's say it was one of those restaurants that you have to email back and forth for a reservation. Oh my gosh. If it's one of those, we have them download the whole email chain as a PDF and save that to the document section as well. Because I can tell you, you just have somebody that's got their heart set on something. I don't know about you, but the one time I am most angry is when my husband changes our dinner reservations. Like I've already ordered in my head. Like my taste buds are
I've
ready.
studied the menu for a month.
How dare you? So the reality is we want to make sure that doesn't happen to our clients. So that is also something that we'll have our guest experience team do is just upload that confirmation email. And that way, if the client goes in and the restaurant's like, we don't have your reservation, they can say, no, 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 here's where you're emailing. Here's a person you're emailing. Here's where it got confirmed, whatever that looks like. And again, it's just another layer of stuff that you don't have to deal with. Like I never have clients call me when they travel. Like I don't ever talk to my now I will say on the pre-departure call, I explain to them no news is good news. Don't call me unless something's going wrong and you need me. But it is really, really rare to have someone call me. 9 times out of 10, they get home and I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? Oh, and you fixed it? That's amazing. Good for you. Like that's the relationship at the end of the day. And I've got really high net worth value clients that are spending a lot of money and they expect the support, but I give it to them in a different way. Does that make sense?
For sure.
All right, Haley, I think we checked all of our boxes on pre departure. If you don't have a pre departure manager, somebody doing this for you, you should. And I will also say for everyone out there that has an assistant already, if your assistant is doing both the guest experience work and the pre departure work, we've kind of found over the years that those are two very, very different people. And here's what I mean by that. The person that does the pre departure work, they are extraordinarily detail oriented and enjoy doing that comparison data entry type work. The person that is really going to enjoy guest experience work and working directly with your clients, they're going to be a lot more extroverted. They're going to be a lot more bubbly, typically, that I just like to be helpful. I like to serve kind of mentality. And we genuinely have found the people that serve the best in those roles are different people. So if you have one person kind of doing all of the jobs, I just want to throw that out there, kind of evaluate your assistant and say, like, is this the right assistant for me to do all of the things, or do I need somebody to plug in here and not here? There's a reason that at Sava we sell those packages separately. For guest experience for us, if you want guest experience but you don't want pre-departure, you don't have to do them both. You kind of do what makes sense for your business and what makes sense for what you already have in play. You may already have someone and you're like, she's great at guest experience, but she's not the most detailed person when it comes to pre-departure. I wouldn't trust her with that piece. So I want to plug somebody else into that. So I like to throw it out there that I do think these are two very different roles. And pre-departure, in my eyes, is the most important when it comes to getting a client that is going to be happy at the end of the tour. Guest experience is most important when it comes to taking a ton of time off your plate, right? That pre-departure check, it takes a couple of hours, but guest experience can take 5 to 6 hours per trip. It can really, really add up with all of these little requests. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. Haley, anything you want to add to that, to our pre-departure deep dive here?
No, like I said, if you're not doing it now, definitely start implementing it in your business. If you have questions about this template, reach out to us. We're here, Travel Agent Guide on Facebook page. Tons of resources for everyone. So don't hesitate to ask.
Yes, yes, we'd love to. I should post this entire checklist because it really is very detailed. I mean, the idea is making sure that there is meetings, phone number, meeting time, or meeting places, meeting times, phone numbers, just each of the details for each of the components. And I don't think people really realize how much should be in a great itinerary to have your clients never contact you, because that is my goal in life. I don't want you to call me nervous on a trip. I want you to go and have everything you need. So that's our goal with pre-departure. That's what we've put so much blood, sweat, and tears into creating. And I hope this was helpful. And I hope, if anything, pass this along to your assistant and say, hey, listen to this, do all of these things,
Yeah.
and let them begin to dive in and work properly for you. All right, guys, thanks for listening. If you guys have any questions about Sava Travel, you can email myself or Haley at savatravel.com, and we are more than happy to dive into those discussions with you.